Good afternoon and welcome back from lunch. We have two presentations left this afternoon for you before we wrap up for the day. Don't forget you can still fill in the meeting survey online to help us make improvements moving forward, and there's a chance to win a voucher if you complete that. But on to our next presentation, and this is presented by Doug and Ed from Oggy. And they're going to be speaking to us about the development of their new fibre network in South Wales. So, Ed, you first? Great.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, everybody. Thank you very much for having us here today. Really excited to be able to talk to you about this project. This is something that, as we'll go on to talk about, has been a long time in gestation, and we're at the point now where this network's going to be ready and live within a short few weeks, as a sort of fruition of a process we've been involved in for a while. So we've been looking forward to the time when we could stand up here with it nearly ready to go and tell you what it's all about. Thanks also to Doug for this lovely picture here. So a very nice picture of the Prince of Wales Bridge, which is one of the structures that we go over with this new network. I'm conscious that there have been a lot of really great presentations during this couple of days, and slightly nervous to have been following in the aftermath of the presentation by someone about how to give good presentations, particularly given I only caught the end of the presentation, so I think I may have missed most of the tips that were in it. What I did pick up is that there were a number of P's in there. I'm not sure if I've got any of the P's in, but certainly pretty poor panic, which are the P's normally associated with my presentations, I don't think were in there. I did pick up, though, that it was a really good strategy to make yourself popular by giving people chocolate. I haven't brought any chocolates, but I can. Oh, brilliant. Okay, so there we go. There are some chocolates there. I certainly find that strategy works for me in my home life with my wife and children. I think there is a direct correlation between their attention to me as teenagers and as my wife with the amount and frequency of chocolate that I give them. And in fact, thinking about the move to Wales that I made 3 years ago for Oggy, when my wife and I dropped the bombshell to my children that we were tearing up their lives and moving them to Wales, it may have been the fact that we'd visited Haverfordwest the year before and visited a chocolate factory with what I believe is Wales' only chocolate river that may have had a sort of subliminal effect on their willingness to accept that move to Wales. So I could definitely think, I can subscribe to the fact that chocolate does help. The final thing I picked up was that the more you do this, the better you get, apparently. So please consider yourselves guinea pigs and take some satisfaction from the fact that I will learn something from this, even if you don't. So I'm Ed Siegel from Oggy. It's Oggy, 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 as in the chant, a popular chant at rugby matches across Wales. I am Director of Strategic Business Development for Oggy. I've been washing around in telecoms since about 1998, sort of pre-dot-com bubble glory days, when we were all sort of flying around the world, swimming in champagne, etc. Fast forward a few years to a slightly more relevant context. I, as a consultant, got a gig working for Welsh Government as a client, and ended up working a couple of days a week in the Digital Infrastructure Department's office in Cardiff, around the time when the idea of the trunk road concession was being born, and worked on that project for a number of years. I then left that job, went to work for another consultancy for a while, and then the job came up at Oggy. Having known the landscape in Wales for a few years and been involved with projects like this, it looked like a really good opportunity for me, so I took that job, and then became involved on the other side of the fence, working on the development of the trunk road concession project at Oggy and becoming responsible primarily for its commercialisation. So all in all, I've been involved with this project in different respects for the best part of a decade, really. And I think the point about that is that this is something which is really important to me. It's really close to my heart. The fact that this is coming to its fruition now is something really satisfying, and it's very important to me as a subject. And it's also something which is very important to Oggy. So I don't know how much people know about Oggy. Some of you will be very familiar with us, others may not know of us. We are a full fibre altnet focusing primarily on the Welsh market. We were previously Spectrum Fibre net support company that have been going for about 20 years prior to an investment a couple of years ago. Some of you will know Giles Phelps, who was our founder, who's been at this event on many occasions. We received funding from Infra Capital in about 2020, £200 million investment to build out full fibre across South Wales, focusing mainly on the market towns in the region, places like Haverfordwest, Abergavenny, Monmouth, Lanswick Major, etc., often left behind in terms of investment in infrastructure. But we are more than just a full fibre residential fibre builder and ISP. We have a very important B2B arm to our business. We were the first people in the UK that did a trial with Nokia for a 25 gig product, for example. It's an important part of our business, but also building a wholesale business is very important to us too, and this is where the trunk road concession comes in. We see ourselves very much as a sort of full service provider, residential services, business services, and wholesale services. I think there's quite a lot of doom and gloom in some departments at the moment about altnets. If you listen to some people, we're all going to the wall by next Thursday, and the market's going to revert to sort of 3 or 4 usual suspects. But we don't believe that's the case. We believe if you get the model right, you have the right technology, the right products, the right customer service, the right local approach, and the right balance of your company, and with us that includes wholesale, then I think that you've got a really good chance of success in your chosen market. So, yeah, very important to me personally, but also very important to Oggy, this project that's coming to fruition. Just to sort of talk a little bit about where the idea came from, sort of what the genesis of this project is, to sort of put it in context. So going back 10, 15 years in Wales, and it's the same in lots of regions of the UK, there was a lack of fibre, a lack of competition, a lack of supply, of diversity of fibre, particularly long-haul fibre. And it's arguable that's still the case. In the southeast, you can get fibre. There's, if you want to buy some dark fibre or something, there are some suppliers of it. But the further you go west, the less that's the case. And even in the sort of southeast corner where we operate partly, there's still a lack of fibre. So that was a problem that we're trying to solve. It was interesting to hear Machiki's presentation earlier, where he's talking about interconnection enablers and the importance of that long-distance connectivity. And I think that was something that was recognised at the time. To help the ecosystem, we really need to have that long-distance fibre in there. So the objective was, of Welsh Government and other stakeholders, to build a digital ecosystem for Wales. How are we going to make sure that the digital services that businesses and consumers need in Wales are there to guarantee the economic future of the region? How do we do that? How do we build that digital ecosystem? And there were a number of things that happened around that time. There was significant investment, for example, in Superfast Cymru, £224 million initially by Welsh Government and others in building out superfast broadband to people. There was, in 2015, LINX came along. NGD, the data centre that now has become Vantage, sprang up and has become arguably the largest data centre in Europe. So there were a lot of things that were going on at that time that sort of were born in that time that have been really beneficial for the ecosystem. But still, this lack of long-distance fibre remains. I mean, we're still very reliant on DFX, for example, in lots of parts of the country. So that poses a challenge then. So if you're Welsh Government and you want to do something about that, how do you go about it? How do you achieve that effective but low cost public intervention? Welsh Government had already had significant investment in things like fibre speed, where it spent quite a lot of money, and but wanted to achieve something without necessarily doing that kind of spending. Also, there was a certain amount of risk involved with certain types of public sector investment back in that time. So I was involved in a project called Birmingham Digital Districts, where Birmingham City Council, for example, wanted to invest in an open access network. This is in the kind of mid-2000s in Digbeth and Eastside and the Jewellery Quarter in central Birmingham. And indeed, went to put that project in place. But it was torpedoed by legal challenge from the incumbents, who challenged whether there was market failure and whether that kind of public sector intervention was allowed. This is before the LFFN PSAT model, public sector anti-tenant model that BDUK sort of put in place, had really come along. So the Welsh Government came up with this idea of using the concession model to deal with this problem. To use an asset that it had, make that available for the public sector, for the private sector to invest in, to improve, and to use to install subduct and microduct and fibre to bring that fibre into the market without requiring any investment from the public sector. So a sort of marriage of transport and digital infrastructure. The person who, I've heard a couple of people claim that they came up with the idea, but the person who I believe was behind the idea was a guy called Simon Jones, who was head of the Economic Infrastructure Department in Welsh Government, which sat above digital infrastructure and transport in Welsh Government. So he was able to bring those two things together, which have been continued by Welsh Government since. The theory then is you have this marriage, public and private in harmony, a public sector asset, private sector investment, nice pipes in the ground, put your fibre in them, Bob's your uncle, and there you've got a network which works well with that structure. The reality is somewhat different. This has been a complicated project and has required a sort of jigsaw puzzle of joint endeavour, of working with a number of different stakeholders, not just Welsh Government, but Cardiff Council, National Highways, Sutra, Welsh Government's trunk road agent, contractors, etc., etc. So it's been a real sort of piece of collaborative work to bring this to fruition. But I think that original vision was sound. We're on the brink of this network being ready. And through a lot of joint working, it looks like it's going to come together very soon. What is it then? The trunk road concession. What does it actually entail? What is that model? So it's an agreement between Welsh Government and OGI, a 20 to 25 year agreement whereby we have exclusive rights in South Wales to build out along the trunk roads and motorways. Initially in a thing called the initial concession territory, so that's in the southeast of Wales. So we're talking about a connection going over the Prince of Wales Bridge into Vantage Datacentre and along to Cardiff. So in that area of southeast Wales, there's a proof of concept really that we can build this network, that it's viable from our point of view, from our investors' point of view, and get it up and running. And then we have the rights to apply to use the concession contract to build out on the other trunk roads in South Wales. So the black roads that are there are all the other trunk roads in South Wales. So we can go along further to the west or up along the heads of the valleys, etc., etc., etc. It gives us the right to use existing ducts where they're there, and we can install our subducts, microducts, fibre in those. Where they aren't there, where they aren't in good repair or they don't exist, then we put our own ducts in. And all that is at no cost to the taxpayer. Where we use existing duct, we have to pay a rental charge for it, and we invest in other places. And as it says, it's pan-South Wales. There was also the idea of a North Wales trunk road concession, and indeed the procurement process for that started, but it didn't get awarded in the end. So at the moment, there's just the South Wales one. Okay. So at this point in the presentation, I'm going to follow another piece of advice from the presentation yesterday, which is to let the geeks speak. And so Doug Williams is going to come up and take over for a couple of slides.
Pnawn da, Doug ydw I, Oh no, hang on a minute, wrong country. Good afternoon, I'm Doug, I am a geek, but actually my position at Oggy is the Director of Engineering and Network Operations. So once everybody has left and the job is done, it's more mine. So it seemed fitting to talk about some of the complexities and what we're actually doing with the network. So we're bringing in, almost there now on phase one of a new diverse route into Wales, over the Prince of Wales Bridge, and into Vantage Datacentre, and then on to Cardiff. Those that have been to Cardiff or know the Openreach exchanges, it's Empire House. If you've been to the rugby, you've probably walked past the tall office block that is actually an exchange there. So first of all, going in, nothing too extraordinary, 144, 288 fibres, and then the actual microducts. And there's some lovely pictures. There's a clicker here somewhere. Hang on a second. There you go. So there's a clicker there. We'll get onto that picture. I'm just going to come over here. So my background, actually, I've spent my working life doing data centers, access networks, wireless, fixed wireless. Spent 14 years at Alcatel, Newbridge, Alcatel Lucent. Skipped the Nokia piece. Ericsson before that, back in the 90s when you only got told off if you didn't spend enough money launching product, which was weird back then. But one of the things that I was very lucky to do at Alcatel was be part of the National Highways delivery of the managed motorways. So one of the first motorways, the M42, with the hard shoulder, etc., and you've seen that expand across the UK. So working with National Highways wasn't new to me, but from a technical standpoint, I've been doing really clever things and exciting 25 gig and rolling out a network across Wales to have rapidly approaching 15,000 residential FTTP customers now, and getting really excited about LINX and IX Exchange and going from 10 gig ports to 100 gig ports and wondering when I'll go to 400 and all of that clever stuff. Ed and everybody else has been doing the trunk road. It's not complicated. It's just some duct going across the network, right? Not complicated at all. How wrong was I? Multiple stakeholders, Welsh Government. We've only got the one motorway coming across Wales, and unlike years and years of investment and multiple new ducts and infrastructure put in across the rest of the UK, that hasn't been done in Wales. So some of the starting surveys would find no duct at all, where it said there was a duct, or a path that wasn't a path. We've had to link with South Wales Road Traffic Authority, their partners, ERH. The Welsh Government, obviously, a big part of what we've done. And just touching on those significant engineering difficulties, for those that drive along the M4, once you come over the bridge, you go from 3 lanes into 2 lanes and go over Newport. And some of the challenges there, little things like, where does England finish and Wales start? Anyone know? Go on. You can have a chocolate if you can guess what tells you you're now in Wales. We've got a spare chocolate. Was there? No. No. But good answer, some chocolate. You're not going to get this. Now, somewhere about here, and I think it's officially around here, there is, if you go on Google Earth, some white markings on the ground. And those little white markings are about this wide, and if you blinked, you'd miss it. Don't blink. But that officially marks where England starts and Wales finishes, or the other way round. And actually what's really weird is the Welsh control goes this side of the bridge, and the English side goes this side of the bridge. Sutra and their traffic management centre in Cardiff have access to cameras on this side, and National Highways up in Bristol and up in Birmingham have access to cameras over this side. And there's fibre and connectivity going either way.
I mean, is it a little white line and there's a giant pair of scissors?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, the scissors are in a little electric box on the side. So access, when this goes live, my team are the team that will actually get that call at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, we've lost connectivity, we've done an OTDR test, and we believe it's chamber X, etc., etc. But who do we call, and where do we go to get access? Now, I would have loved to show you pictures of inside the Prince of Wales Bridge. And maybe when we come back to the next one, if we're lucky enough to get a slot to talk on the next one, I'll get approval to show you some of the pictures inside, because it is truly amazing to see inside. But it's probably going to be one of the most safest pieces of network in the UK, because it's all protected inside. If something goes wrong inside here, don't phone me. So we come off the bridge there down into Pilnin, a little road called Shaft Road, which is literally just above the railway line. It goes underneath. So we've got onward connectivity into Bristol and onto the railways to pick up other people can come in that way. Once we come out of the bridge, there's a little problem here. Apart from the demarcation point, every 500 meters, there's a copper loop. Anyone heard of Midas? There you go. It's not that interesting. But basically, there is traffic monitoring all the way through, and they are every 500 meters on both sides of the road. And they're copper loops. So we can't go through them. So we partnered with a company called FNS. Did I get that right? FNS. And any minute now, there's going to be a video. By minute, I mean day. There's going to be a video of those, and you've seen some of the pictures already that they took. This is the micro-trenching that they used, because there was no duct network at all there. So we partnered with FNS to do that, and the plan was great. But then we found out about these Midas loops. So every 500 meters, we have to come off the hard shoulder, go underneath the Armco, into a chamber, then back underneath and sweep in. And of course, that's not a little in-out, because it needs to sweep in and sweep out. So that was quite a challenge. And over the next couple of years, there's going to be a lot of investment on this section, but ultimately, the best path to Vantage, and something that I'm sure is up there somewhere about diversity, because that's the other strategy of looking for connectivity. I'll tell you a little story. Names will be kept out of the information. Obviously, I've been putting network across Wales, and I needed high capacity in Swansea to go west. And I went out to the market and I purchased high capacity to there for a couple of years until the rest of the network caught up. And it was all in, and it was working, and then it went down. Now, obviously, you're not all from Wales, but what you can imagine is we have one location here, going west to another location. So when you phone the company up and say there's an issue, and they go, oh yeah, there's a fibre break in Bristol, you suddenly start scratching your head, and you realise then when you start looking at all of the maps of all of the fibres, a lot of connectivity generally goes the wrong way that you want it to go, and it's not that diverse. So one of the things that we wanted to make sure is aim to put a diverse path in, but also be very open in our presentation, and anybody that comes and takes a service off us will have genuinely what I believe is the best handover packs I've ever seen by a gentleman called Richard Leedon, who's delivering the programme. Not here today, but hopefully he'll come in the future. But frankly, they're the best handover packs I've ever witnessed to see the creation. Every chamber, every picture, GPS coordinates, etc. So that when you're building a network, when you're operating a network, easily you can see exactly where all of that fibre is, and you can plan to where all that fibre is. So anyway, so some of the challenges that we've had, getting through to all the different locations, but it's been, and it is, an incredible journey. I said I've spent my working life ordering optics, spare parts, filling shelves with racks of components, and all of a sudden I'm finding myself on eBay style shops looking at, do I buy my own digger? Or do I go and buy services? And thankfully, we've partnered with some amazing companies. And I said F&S is one of them. Velta, Fiberlay, and working with our partners and stakeholders at Sutra and ERH. We've had to do that. And even local councils. Taking heed from the amazing presentation yesterday about how to present and asking the audience, this is an open offer, and next time, I haven't put loads of pictures of what I'm going to do around lit services, what optics we're putting in, what type of ducts in there, but it's an open offer to come back after it's live and actually show you some, hopefully some pictures of the equipment, pictures of the infrastructure, some of the things that we hadn't anticipated and more in detail. So if you want to see those things, please do fill the feedback in and say you'd like to, that you're interested in that, because frankly, this from a technical stance, you could just say, well, it's just a bit of plastic going in the ground and you're going to stick some 400 gig ZRs and it's going to be great, right? Well, A, no. B, it is really interested if you're interested in it. But actually what we're doing in Wales, and picking up on what's been said a few times over the last couple of days about emerging markets, well, actually Wales is an emerging market. If you look at the investment that's coming into Wales, and that's data centres, some big changes coming, and this is really putting Wales on the map. So LINX Wales maybe will have an event in Wales for LINX sometime. But yeah, so that's my bit done. Now we'll go back to Ed, and if there's any questions, ask me after, and please do fill in the feedback. And if you want to know more about and see pictures of it all, please ask, because we'd love to come back and show you that. Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, Doug. Brilliant. Okay, just thank you very much. Yeah, just to finish off now, I mean, I just step back really and then look again at the market context. So there's a lot of exciting stuff going on in Wales at the moment, and this is a key piece of the jigsaw, we believe, in helping to bring that diversity and capacity that's needed. It's one of the fastest growing digital economies outside of London. This kind of infrastructure is very needed. There's a lot of investment and people working in the financial services sector. There's a very active fintech community in creative industries. There's huge turnover and a tech sector worth 8.5 billion to the Welsh economy. So Wales is a really, really thriving place at the moment. And there's a lot of interesting stuff going on, and it's a fantastic place to come and visit and live and work as well. If you're not familiar with the market, I would encourage you to do so. And just looking ahead, so I've talked about the past and where this came from, but there's a continuum here. This is a piece of the jigsaw in that ecosystem which is evolving really fast, and we see some really exciting things going on. There are data centres proliferating across the region. There's some really big planning applications in at the moment for data centres in the Vale of Glamorgan, in Newport, and in other places. There's long been talk of subsea cable landings, and some of that looks like it might come to fruition. Welsh Government is himself investing in building a route from the west of Cardiff all the way to Pembroke Dock using local full fibre networks funding. So there's a big duct network going in there, which will dovetail with our network, all being well. Cardiff Capital Region, CCR, are investing a lot. They've bought the Aberthorpe Power Station, for example, and there's talk about data centres there. Swansea Bay City deal have also got a really strong digital strand. Their Connected Places initiative's got funding to invest in infrastructure, and indeed they're looking at funding a dark fibre network all across the Swansea Bay region at the moment. South Wales is becoming part of a really big global capacity network. If you look at places like Ireland, where there's something like 80 data centres, there's massive saturation of use of electricity. There's a good chance for Wales to position itself as a kind of next place for a lot of that sort of global capacity investment. And with the things that are already in planning, we see that happening today. And as far as we're concerned, we very much feel the TRC, the trunk road concession, is in the right place at the right time. And we're really looking forward to being part of the development of the evolution and the growth of that ecosystem going forward. If anyone wants to know any more about it, I've got some brochures which just give a very high-level view of our wholesale business and sort of a link to a website where you can keep tabs on what we're doing. And of course, do get in touch with Doug or I if there's anything else you want to know at any point. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Ed and Doug. Just in terms of the patchwork of parties that you've had to discuss plans with, negotiate with, get agreement with for the actual fibre construction, in terms of tenancy or anchor tenancy for utilisation and monetisation of the network, are you exclusively targeting private sector entities, or have you been able to get engagements of goodwill by the Welsh Government in terms of providing the revenue associated with the build that you're investing in? And if you have, how has the incumbent operator looked to challenge that? Because it's been a pretty contentious subject historically.
Yeah.
It'd just be interesting to know whether you've even looked at public sector anchor tenancy at all, given what's happened in other parts of the UK historically, or whether you're just exclusively targeting private sector investment.
So it's exclusively private sector investment. So there's no public investment involved in this at all.
And what about monetisation? What about the revenue return on that? Have you got any concessions from Welsh Government to utilise the network, or not at all?
No,
it's all going to be a pure native sales effort. They may
or may not become a customer on it, but that's not in the pipeline, to be honest, at the moment. We have to commercialise the network. That's my job and others in my team to do it. So we're having conversations with with the big carriers, with the hyperscalers behind them, with ISPs, looking at possibly extending as well into lit services and and that kind of thing. But yeah, there's no public sector investment or kind of guarantee of demand. In fact, it's one of the big questions that was asked right back at the beginning in the early sort of public market information days by other people in the market. What is there to guarantee? Where's the demand? Where's the anchor tenant? And that put a lot of people off. I think because we knew the market well and it was our market, we weren't put off by it. But it's always been a bit of a question mark, and that risk is on us. I mean, the network's finished soon, and I can tell you that there's pressure on me and others to sell it now. Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.